I was very discouraged when I saw the initial accessibility scores for my Blackboard courses. Working through them one at a time, it took me every spare minute for weeks to clear them out. And that's because I didn't understand all the issues, their causes, and their solutions before I started, and I didn't have a clear plan of attack. But now that I've been through that experience, I want to share my knowledge with you so you can tackle your accessibility issues quickly and with confidence. I'm Maggie, and this is Design Code Debug Repeat. Let's get started. We're going to do this in 3 steps. Remove or hide content that isn't for students, fix document issues in Word, and then fix images, HTML, and video problems. So for step 1, I recommend you Swedish death clean your course. Ask yourself, if you were handing your course shell to a colleague to use, what would you keep and what would you throw away? Your content is going to fall into 2 broad categories. Content you have deployed to students this semester. That content must be accessible. And other. Other might include old content, grading notes, older versions of files, and resources like scans of textbook pages. It's all hidden from students, but the accessibility checker is still evaluating it, so it can drag down your percentage. This process is going to be quicker and less stressful if you remove everything that your students never see before you begin. There are basically 3 things you can do with this support content. Remove it, save it externally, or hide it from the accessibility checker. Let's start with removing it. If it's of no use to you, just delete it. If you want to keep it, first devise a file system for storing it, such as a special folder in each of your course folders on your hard drive. You want to be able to quickly find it again. Download the content to that folder, and then delete it from the LMS. I ran into this tricky problem. You might delete a file from where it's deployed, but there's still an older version or a copy in the course content collection, the list of files that are in the course. If a file keeps getting flagged after you've deleted it, look in the content collection. If there are folders in the content collection, drill down into those to see if you have an unused, inaccessible file there. And if you still can't find it, enlist IT's support. If you have an item that you want to save, content that you created in Blackboard or your LMS, you will want to preserve your formatting and your links. So edit it, copy it, and paste it into Microsoft Word or another text editor that will keep the HTML formatting. Check your links to make sure they're still valid. Then save it to the designated folder on your hard drive and delete the item from the LMS. Now, what did I mean about hiding? After you've removed all of the content that your students never see, you can put it into a folder, zip the folder, and put the folder back in Blackboard. A zipped folder won't impact your accessibility score. Don't do this for deployed content because anything student-facing should be accessible. But if you're a file hoarder like me, you'll still have your support content stored safely in your course without impacting accessibility. Okay, so now the course is clean, but the accessibility score still isn't 100%. Your issues are going to fall into a few broad categories. First, document problems such as heading structure, image issues, table issues, and contrast issues. Next, image and video issues. And finally, HTML, Blackboard item issues, with similar structure and contrast problems. Don't let the term HTML worry you. You can deal with most HTML issues without ever looking at the actual markup. You can solve all of the document problems in MS Word if they're your own documents and you created them in Word. If you used a different text editor, it should allow you to solve these problems in a similar way. So I'm going to hit all of the document problems: no alt text for images, poor contrast, tables that don't have headers, no title, and tag problems. If a document gets flagged for any of these, go through the document once and fix everything. When you do, it might pass Word's accessibility checker but not Blackboard's, so I'm going to show you what you need to do to get it to pass both. Here's a document in Word that needs lots of fixes. Let's start with tag problems and inappropriate heading structure or document is untagged. I have a whole video that explains tags and how to fix them in Word, Acrobat, and HTML. So if your issue isn't solved here, you can check out that video. The heading structure is the hierarchical structure of your document as understood by software, such as a screen reader, through your headings. So you'll have a title, maybe, and then some sections that are at the highest level, heading level 1, and then some subsections below those, heading level 2, etc. A quick way to see that structure is to click the navigation pane box in the View tab, and you'll see the heading structure to the left. Now, for this document, there's nothing in the navigation pane. To a sighted person, it may look like I have headings because we can see text that's big and bold and then text that's a little less big and bold, and we might think those correspond to headings. but a screen reader doesn't care what our text looks like. We need to build structure with headings. What I'm going to do is select the text that's biggest, and in the Home tab in the Styles section, right-click on Title and choose Update Title to match selection. That does two things. It makes the text I just selected a title, and it tells Word that's what I want a title to look like. Now let's do the first heading. I'll select and go to Heading 1, right-click and choose Update Heading 1 to match selection. And now I can see that heading over in the navigation pane. Below that I have a Heading 2, I'll do the same. Once I've gone through the whole document, I can see the structure of my document in the navigation pane. If I have anything that doesn't seem right, like maybe the level is too high or too low, I can right-click on the heading in the navigation pane and demote or promote it to change the level. There are other tag errors you might see, such as too many levels of headings, so the structure is too deeply nested, and the heading structure isn't logical. Maybe you have a heading level 4 nested directly under heading level 1. You will have to consider the structure of your document and whether it should be more hierarchical to fix those. Now, table issues. You might get an error in the accessibility checker, such as the document has tables that don't have any headers, but if you click in the header of your table and go to the Table Design tab, you can see Header Row is checked. That was a head-scratcher the first time I saw it. What I discovered is you also need to make sure that the header row is repeated if the table is extended across multiple pages. So click in the header row and open up the table properties by right-clicking and choosing Table Properties, or by clicking in the Table Layout tab and clicking Properties. Click in the Row tab and check the box Repeat as Header Row to break across pages. One issue I also ran into was merged cells in tables. Visually, they can allow you to have subheadings in a table, but for someone using a screen reader, they can make the structure harder to understand. Screen readers rely on a consistent grid of rows and columns, and when cells are merged, that relationship can break down. So in general, it's safer to avoid merged cells. I restructured some of my tables to remove merged cells. Now let's tackle the text contrast issues. In this document, I'm using examples that have colored text. You should not communicate information solely with color. If you still want to include color, make sure there's sufficient contrast between the text color and the background. The AA level of WCAG 2.1 requires a contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1. I have a video on contrast if you're interested in how contrast is measured and what the standards are. It's very empowering to know, and once you understand it, makes it much easier to solve contrast issues. But in the short term, you can fix this quickly by going through Microsoft Word's accessibility checker. It will suggest high contrast color alternatives for you, and you can choose them and it will replace all low contrast colored text with the new high contrast color. I do recommend a more intentional method in my contrast video, but this will solve your color contrast problems quickly. Now, if you have an image in your document, you probably, but not necessarily, need to have alt text, short for alternative text, associated with the image. Alt text is text that a screen reader can identify as describing the image. Right-click on your image and choose View Alt Text. An alt text pane will open to the right. For many images, you'll either type a few sentences in the alt text box, or if the image has no purpose in your document except decoration, you'll click the Mark as Decorative box. I have a video on alt text, another topic for which a deep dive is empowering. I'm going to summarize that here, but for more detail and examples, check out the alt text video. For each image in your document, identify the purpose of the image. In your alt text, you won't necessarily describe the image, you'll fulfill its purpose in text. As an example, I have an image from the BBC of a map. Here are 3 options for alt text for this image. 1. Image of a map. 2. White, pink, tan, and blue drawing with labels. 3. Map showing territory in Ukraine that is under Russian control. You probably picked option 3. Option 1 doesn't convey the purpose of including a map, and it also makes the mistake of beginning with image of, which a screen reader will automatically say. Option 2 describes visual features of the image but gives us no relevant information. Option 3 tells us that this image shows territory in Ukraine that is under Russian control, communicating the purpose of having this image in the materials. But that's not quite enough for this image. This is a complex image, so you most likely will accompany this image and alt text with a long description located near the image in the document, which imparts the same information as the image, but in text. Charts, graphs, and diagrams are other examples of complex images that require a long description. And here are some other considerations. If the image contains text, you should repeat the text verbatim. End your alt text with a period so a screen reader pauses after reading it. And consider incorporating the purpose of the image into the text of your document for all readers. That should take care of most of your document accessibility problems. You can run the accessibility checker in Word. If the Ally accessibility checker tells you there are more issues, look at what it's highlighting. Go back to your editor and fix what's been highlighted. If you have PDF issues and you have the original document, edit in the original document and then export as a PDF. If you don't have the original document, there are ways to edit the document in Acrobat. Watch my tags video to see how to do that. A lot of my issues in Ally were title issues. This document doesn't have a title. The way to solve that is when you're saving your Word document, click More Options, and you'll get a dialog box that allows you to add a title. Do this whenever you export as a PDF. The other issues in my course are tag issues in HTML, so that's Blackboard items, and images with poor contrast or no alt text. In HTML or Blackboard items, the heading level issue that I've had is that my headings start at a level lower than heading, which is the heading level 1 in Blackboard. So similar to Word, it's a matter of selecting text that's supposed to be a heading and making sure you're starting at the highest heading level and that everything is hierarchically structured. Now, on to image issues. First, alt text. We already know what to write, but how do we add it? In Blackboard, if you're just dropping an image onto a page, you should choose to add the image as an image and not just as a file. When you add the image, you can add both alt text and a long description. If you're dropping an image into an item or if it's part of a question in a test, then you can right-click on the image, choose image, and then there's a box for alt text. It's a very small box, which is not ideal. If you need more space and you're not squeamish about looking at HTML, click on the code button and find your image. It will be an IMG tag, and find the alt text. It will look like alt equals quote quote, and put your alt text between the quotes. You can also take care of alt text using Ally, and the box in Ally gives you more space. But you'll want to know how to add alt text for the future for when you're adding new content to a course. The last image issue is tricky, and that's contrast. If your image is conveying meaningful information, then there needs to be a contrast ratio of 3:1 between important elements and what's next to them, like bars in a bar chart against the background, and sometimes against each other if they touch or need to be distinguished. You can plug your colors into a contrast checker to make sure they meet the 3:1 ratio. If they don't, remake your graphic with different colors or borders around components. Some other guidelines for graphics include making sure the text inside an image meets the 4.5:1 contrast ratio, and making sure you don't convey information only with color. There are exceptions, for example, if changing the contrast would fundamentally change the meaning of the graphic. Once you have an image with accessible contrast, don't forget to add your alt text and long description. Finally, let's talk about captioning. I have a video on ways to caption videos, your own as well as others, and reasons why captions aren't always enough. The TLDR of that video is that automatically generated captions lack punctuation and capitalization and sometimes get words wrong, so they aren't sufficient. You can edit the automatically generated captions, which is getting easier as automatic captions improve, or write your own. But you also need to describe your videos for folks who can't see them. So the best way to approach video content is to write a script that includes description before recording. If that's not possible, you can create a full-text alternative to a video that includes a transcript of the audio and description of the visual elements. I hope this helps you get your online course materials quickly into the accessibility green zone. If you felt overwhelmed at the start like I did, this process really does get faster once you know what to look for. If you have a question or comment, please drop it below. Thank you for doing this important work, which will make your course better for everyone. Take care.